Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody doing today? Good evening. Happy Thursday to everyone. Hope everyone's having a great day today. Today it's Thursday here in Tokyo. A day where it's finally not raining, which is kind of cool. But it is really hot. I hope everyone had a great day today. I didn't do a live lesson yesterday. I usually do one on Wednesdays, but I was not feeling very well. I was just kind of worn out, worn down. So I thought I'd just get a good night's sleep and then make sure I did a lesson today, my usual Thursday. Today we're going to be intermediate to advanced English. We're going to be focusing on speaking today. So a lot of speaking practice. We are going to be using the phrases in spite of and despite. And as always, I'll put the screen, the lesson onto the screen. Let me just close some of these windows so we don't have a laggy stream. All right, let's share the screen right now. And there we go. That's the lesson we're doing today. All right. Mira, how are you today? How are you today, Mira? I hope you're having a great day. Miranda, hey, how are you today? How are you today? Hope you're having a great day as well. I'm actually having a good day today. I got a lot of sleep. I'm well rested. I had a good day at work. I got to even play basketball during my coaching session today. So I'm very, very happy. So as I said, today we're going to be looking at in spite of and despite. In spite of and despite. Now, we're not really going to go over the grammar today. I've done a lesson on this. I've done a video on this as well. So I've done two of them. One is a live lesson. One is just a regular video. So if you're interested to learn about the grammar in more detail, then go check out those videos. Today, we're not really going to be looking at the grammar. We're going to go straight into, the speaking part. I'm going to give you some scenarios, some cues, some words, and from there you are going to make some sentences. The only thing I'll do is just a quick little grammar. Is I want you to make sure that you follow, this grammar here. So whenever you use in spite of or despite, we can follow it with a noun, or you can follow it with the ing verb. Okay, either or, the meaning doesn't change. Just make sure you follow that grammar there. All right, and what I'll do is I will put a banner of that so people don't forget. So here is one. All right, so the one is going to be this here. In spite of or despite plus a noun. And the other one will be if we use verb ing. Okay, verb ing. Now, basically, all this is saying is that, we're introducing two sentences that will contrast each other. All right, so they don't kind of go well together. So we are going to be having contrasting sentences. So, just, a quick reminder here. For example, I wanted to go to school despite feeling sick. So usually if you're sick, you don't want to go to school. You don't go to school. But in this situation, I want to go. Right? So there is kind of a conflict between the two sentences. Right? So that's the only type of grammar I'm going to teach you today. The rest will be just sentences that you make. I think as you make the sentences, you will understand how and when to use this grammar. Right? So I wanted to go to the beach in spite of the weather. In spite of the weather. So that means probably the weather is very bad. The weather is very bad. Right? So we're showing contrast. Okay, so let's jump right into it. But before I do that, there were some people saying, hello, Mira, you're feeling great. It's good to have you in a live lesson. I'm doing really well, Mira. I'm having a great day. And I'm glad to have you in the live lesson. It's awesome. Paramesh, how are you today? Good evening. I'm doing well, Paramesh. Thanks for asking. Hope you're doing well as well. Miranda, you got a bit of a high temperature. Oh no, you're sick. It is, the summer cold is going around. And I think it's regardless of where you live. I live in Tokyo, but it is going around. People are getting sick. So make sure you take care of yourself. Drink lots of liquids, Miranda. All right, let's look at what we are going to do today. Okay, so in this first scenario section, I've got, the concert was outdoors. The weather was terrible. The concert was outdoors. The weather was terrible. You're very well. You're very welcome, Parmesh, and I'm glad you're doing well. All right, so we've got some information here. The concert was outdoors. The weather was terrible. So using this information, we want to make a sentence using in spite of or despite an ing verb, or in spite and despite plus a noun. Okay, it's your choice. They both have the same meaning. So for me, if I make a sentence with this information, maybe my sentence would be, I enjoyed the concert despite the rain. I enjoyed the concert despite the rain. All right, so here I've used the information. I enjoyed the concert. You can say I went to the concert as well, in spite of the rain. I went to the outdoor concert in spite of the rain. All right, so number one, I wanted to do for you so you have an idea. You don't have to use the words that I put on the screen. This is just your information. And the first few will be easy. I will give you a lot of information. But as we continue, I'll give you less and less information. All right, so Miranda, we decided to go to, and then you put I saw you put the concert in spite of the terrible weather. So we need two dots. Excellent. Okay, so we have an idea of what to do. Let's look now. Number two, the team was underprepared. The team was underprepared. They won the match. All right, so that's lucky. They were underprepared, but they won the match. That's super lucky. So underprepared means they didn't prepare enough. Before you play any match, any sporting event, before you do any test, you have to study, you have to practice, you have to prepare. In this situation, the team was underprepared. Luckily, they won the match. So using in spite of a noun or despite a noun, or we can use ing. What sentence would you make here? All right, for me, how I would do this is in the first sentence, you noticed I put despite in the middle. So I separated the two. But maybe in this second one, maybe what I'll do is I'll put despite at the beginning, right? Or maybe in spite of, I can put at the beginning, right? So let's make a sentence using this. Okay. All right. If my screen is super laggy, please let me know, okay? Okay. So this is what I would say for my sentence. Despite being underprepared for the big match, they won. All right. So Miranda, you've got, they were not prepared perfectly despite winning the match. I would actually switch that. They won the match despite not being prepared perfectly. All right, Mira, they won the match in spite of being underprepared. Perfect. Okay. Paramesh, right idea. The team won the match despite being underprepared. All right, in this situation, we don't need a subject after they. We don't need a subject after they. Does that make sense? All right, so make sure, after you have despite, you're not going to put a subject there. Yeah, Miranda, no worries. When you're sick, that happens. That's okay. Okay. I think we got a lot of great answers there. We got a lot of great answers. Let's move on to number 3. She had a cold. And I'm going to put number 4 on the screen too, just in case anybody wants to jump ahead. She had a cold, and then I've got the word meeting. All right, so she had a cold, and then I have the word meeting. So we have 2 types of information here. We have meeting, but it's not a sentence. It's just one word. And then we've got she had a cold. So Paramesh, not having underprepared, your verb. In your first sentence, you said they were underprepared. So were is be verb. So despite being underprepared, okay, or in spite of being underprepared. So for example, Mira's answer, they won the match in spite of being underprepared. Okay, almost, Mira. You're almost there. I would change the article. No at cold. I would change that to her cold. Her cold, I think, in that situation. So just in spite of her cold, she attended the meeting. Okay. Or, using a verb. For example, in Miranda's got here using a verb. Despite having a cold, she managed the meeting, not the meeting well. Okay. Despite having a cold, she managed the meeting well. And I'm going to give you another word for managed meeting, Miranda. I'm going to put it as a banner here. So whenever you're talking about a meeting, we have a chairperson. A chairperson is the person who is going to run the meeting, manage the meeting. So for them, the verb we're going to say is they facilitate a meeting. Okay. You facilitate a meeting. Okay. So yeah, with a meeting, there's always a chairperson. The chairperson is the person who runs and manages the meeting, but we don't say run or manage. We're going to say facilitate. So the chairperson facilitates a meeting. So your answer, you could say here, despite having a cold, she facilitated the meeting well. Right. So yeah, there's so many different answers. I'll put one up here as well. She went to the meeting despite having a bad cold. I'm just adding extra words to make the language more colorful. And then we do have number 4, Mira, you had an answer here already. I got there on time despite the heavy traffic. Okay. I got there on time despite the heavy traffic. I like that. Got there. That's the correct verb, Mira. Excellent. Well done. I got there. I think a lot of people will say I arrived on time. Which is completely fine. It's great. I arrived on time. But I think a lot of native speakers, we're going to use got there. Okay, so I arrived on time. You could also say I got there on time. We have a very kind of an older idiom. We don't really use it too much now. But does anybody know what this means? I got there in the nick of time. Right, this is an idiom I think that actually started in like the 1600s or the 1500s. Mira, yes, it means just in time. Yeah, exactly, on time. Miranda, exactly. One word here, I would say she made it on time. She made it on time. That's another one. Yeah, you make it on time. Made it on time. She made it on time despite the heavy traffic. Excellent. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Number 5, the recipe was complicated. And then we've got perfect dish. The recipe was complicated. And we got perfect dish. So Paramesh, your answer for the previous one is I used to arrive on time despite the heavy traffic. Okay, this means something that not now, talking about the past. Okay, that works. All right, what about number 5? The recipe was complicated. And then we've got perfect dish. What do you guys think here? The recipe was complicated and we got perfect dish. Let's put my sentence. I'll put my sentence as a banner. All right, so my answer would be this. I was able to make a perfect dish despite the recipe being complicated. Okay. We've got Mira, in spite of a complicated recipe, she made a perfect dish. Okay. Miranda here, not being in trouble, having trouble. Despite having trouble with the recipe, she made a perfect dish. And I think Paramesh has an answer here too. I made a perfect dish despite it being complicated. Here's perfect. So I said before, we don't really follow these with subjects, but with gerund, we can use it as a subject. So correct, Paramesh. Very good. All right, so let's keep going then. Number 6. He continued to work late into the night. Now, if you notice with number 6, I don't have a second sentence or a second word or a second type of information. I only have the one sentence. So you can use your imagination and figure out the contrasting idea. So he continued to work late into the night. And you can just continue the sentence, or you can rearrange however you'd like. And I'm going to put my answer as a banner here. I'm going to make a longer sentence here just so, we have extra things to study. All right, so my sentence is on the screen. Despite being extremely exhausted, he continued to work late into the night thanks to a lot of caffeine. All right, so despite being extremely exhausted, he continued to work late into the night thanks to a lot of caffeine. All right, and I think we got an answer here. Miranda, so late into the night, what does it mean? So basically, when you're working, most companies, most jobs, you will finish your work, anytime from 6 p.m., maybe 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., people finish work. Late into the night means you're going past that. So you're working at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m. So it's very late into the nighttime. So that means basically you're working very long time. All right, so for example, I worked late into the night. Maybe I was working until 1 a.m. And so my answer, again, despite being extremely exhausted, he continued to work late into the night thanks to a lot of caffeine. So luckily he had caffeine, so he was able to continue to work, even though he was extremely exhausted. So here, Paramesh, he continued to work late into the night is going to be the together with he continued to work. If you wanted to separate it, then I would say he continued to work despite it being late. But you can't use into the night here. Just despite it being late. So if you notice in my sentence, Paramesh, I've got late into the night. It's together with he continuing to work late into the night. All right, Miranda. She kept working late into the night in spite of not, and then I need a verb here, not this way, not something, a sufficient salary, not what verb could you add here, Miranda? And anybody who wants to go to number 7, it's on the screen right now. But what verb could we add? So she kept working late into the night in spite of not, and then we have to look good, not having a sufficient salary, not getting, not receiving. Right? So you get a salary, you have a salary, you receive a salary, you earn a salary. That's another one here. So you could say she kept working late into the night in spite of not earning a sufficient salary. All right, I like that word. I like you earn a salary. That's a good one to remember. So earn has a little bit of a different meaning than get or receive. Get and receive just means you're getting it, you're receiving it. But earning a salary means you do something, you're working, so you get a salary, you get money. So you could just do a noun, Miranda, but you put the word not. Right? Because you got the word not, I need to add a verb there. Right? So if you wanted to just use a noun, then you could say she kept working late into the night in spite of a low salary, in spite of an insufficient salary, insufficient, or a low salary. Does that make sense, Miranda? And Paramesh, yes, perfect. He continued to work despite it being late. Okay, so you're very welcome, Miranda. Let's look at number 7, and I got number 8 on the screen too. Anybody who wants to jump ahead after they've answered number 7, the restaurant was fully booked. The restaurant was fully booked. All right, that means there's no tables available. The restaurant's fully booked. People have made reservations. You can't get a seat, can't get a table. All right, I'll make a sentence as well using a banner. Okay. There's my answer. I was able to get a table at the restaurant in spite of it being fully booked. I was able to get a table at the restaurant in spite of it being fully booked. Okay, does anybody have any other ways to make a sentence here? The restaurant was fully booked. That means there's no tables available. Everybody's reserved the tables. For me, I was able to get a table at the restaurant in spite of it being fully booked. I could use a noun phrase here as well. I was able to get a table in spite of the restaurant being fully booked. That's also okay. Miranda here. They tried to get a table in spite of it being fully occupied. Switch those two words. Fully occupied. I'm going to add a little bit to my sentence. I want to add this. I want you to tell me what it means. Oh, 1 second. There we go. There we go. I've added it a little bit of extra information here. I was able to get a table at the restaurant in spite of it being fully booked because I slipped the manager 100. I slipped the manager 100. What does that mean? I slipped the manager 100. Slip, right? Slip kind of means, when you're walking in snow or on ice, your footing is not perfect. You might fall down. Your feet kind of do this action. That's slipping action. You slip and fall. But here, slip has a different meaning. This is a slang word. Maybe it's an idiom. I slipped the manager 100. Miranda, yeah, you can use it and the gerund. It and ing. That is correct. We've got a table at the restaurant despite it being fully booked. Good job, Parmesh. Nice. Miranda, bribe. Yeah, it's like a bribe. Basically, the word slip the manager 100, right? Let's imagine this is the $100 bill. I don't even know what this is. Oh, these are stickers. Imagine this is a $100 bill, right? I can't go to the restaurant in front of everyone and say, "Oh, here's $100. Here, take the $100. Give me a table." We can't do that because, it's frowned upon. People don't like that. People will get angry if the manager says, "Okay." It's not right. It should be done first come, first serve. But, if you've lived in America, especially I lived in LA and New York, money talks. So I can't go like this. So basically, I've got the money. I'm going to fold it kind of small so it fits into my hand. You can't see it. It's on this side. And I go to the manager and I shake the manager's hand. And I'm going to slide the money from this hand into the manager's hand. So that you slip them a $100 bill means you give them the money secretly without anyone knowing. All right. And that's usually how it was. You would fold it, put it in your palm of your hand. You shake, slide it in. The manager would take it, and you can get a table. I've done that before. I cannot lie. I've done that. So I was able to get a table at the restaurant in spite of it being fully booked because I slipped the manager 100. Now, just to have a little bit of fun, let's change it one more time. All right, I changed it here. I didn't say 100. I said a Benjamin. I was able to get a table at the restaurant in spite of it being fully booked because I slipped the manager a Benjamin. Benjamin means a $100 bill because Benjamin Franklin is on the $100 bill in America, that is. Okay. Number eight. He passed his test with flying colors. Okay, Paramesh, you got it because the manager is your neighbor. Perfect. Nice. It's good to have connections. Nice. Okay, number 8. He passed his test with flying colors. What's the answer here? What can we say? Flying colors means very easily. He or she did very, very well. Passed it easily, no problems. So if you pass something, if you pass the test really easily, you say, yeah, I passed with flying colors. That means I did very, very well on this test. Okay, so make sure we contrast, right? Make sure we contrast. For example, here's my answer. I passed the test with flying colors despite not studying. I passed the test with flying colors despite not studying. Right, so that really doesn't make sense. Usually you have to study and then you do well on the test. But in this situation, I didn't study, not at all. But I passed with flying colors. Miranda, despite not hitting the books, she passed the test with flying colors. Perfect. All right, hit the books. Excellent idiom. All right, great job, Miranda. Let's go to number 9. And number 10's on the screen for anybody who wants to move ahead as well. All right, so he decided to buy a car. That's number 9. And anybody who still wants to put number 8 or 7, feel free, put it on in the comment section and I'll check it. He decided to buy the car. He decided to buy the car. All right, what can we say here? He decided to buy the car. All right, so I'm going to put my answer as a banner here. Despite losing his job, he decided to buy a car. Hello, Nancy. How are you today? So we're making sentences using despite or in spite of, Nancy. So we're using either in spite of, despite plus a noun, or ing verb. And we're using the information on the screen. So number 9 is he decided to buy the car. So my answer was, despite losing his job, he decided to buy a car. So you have to introduce the contrasting idea also. All right, I like it. So Miranda, you're using a lot of the idioms and phrasal verbs that we've studied in class. That's great. Despite not keeping his head above water quite well, he decided to buy the car. Perfect. And if you don't want, you don't have to put quite well. You don't have to put quite well, but you put it in, that's fine. You know, despite not keeping his head above water, he decided to buy the car. Okay. Despite having a hard time keeping his head above water, he decided to buy the car. But quite well is fine also. Yeah, some people do that. You know, they just want, if they want to buy something, they want to buy it, even if they're having trouble financially. So keeping your head above water means that you are surviving financially. But just your head above water, you're surviving, but it's still quite difficult. Financially, you are not secure. All right, great sentence, Miranda. Miranda, yes, try not to freeze. Yeah, it's excellent. I'm glad you're doing that. All right, pretty much you got a different one. He decided to buy the car despite not being good at driving. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Despite not being good at driving, not being a good driver as well, you could say. Excellent. A lot of people do that. A lot of people buy a car despite not being a good driver. Great sentence, Paramash. All right, so if we keep going to number 10, he was late for the interview. Fighting Bowers, how are you? No problem, no problem. We're only halfway done. You've joined just as we're going to start getting a little bit more difficult, but welcome, welcome, welcome. I think you'll have no problem doing it. We're using despite and in spite of. All right, so we're using either those words with a noun or with ing verb. And we're using the information on the screen. So number 10, he was late for the interview. He was late for the interview. All right, so he was late for the interview. For me, maybe my sentence, I'll put my sentence on the screen. Despite leaving his house 2 hours before the interview, he was late. All right, despite leaving his house 2 hours before the interview, he was late. Nancy, despite not having his driver's license, he decided to buy a car. Yeah, that's great. Maybe buying the car is the motivation he needs to get a driver's license. But perfect sentence, Nancy. All right, so Funny Boys, you're more optimistic than me. Your sentence, despite being late for the interview, he nailed it. Even overqualified for the job. Okay, so this one here, he nailed it. I would end there. Overqualified actually is a negative meaning. So you're overqualified, you're underqualified. Both of those are actually negative when it comes to job interviews. So if you go to a job interview and you have so much experience and you've worked at so many companies, you've done very well, you've got a great career, but you tried to get a new job, but it's for a very basic position, entry-level position. They might not hire you, and they might say to you, I'm sorry, but you're overqualified for this position. So it's kind of a negative meaning. So I would just say he nailed it and finished there. And then, yeah, for the interview. Paramesh, we are addicted to our live lessons despite not having being good at English. No, you guys are amazing in English, Paramesh. No problem. You guys are doing really well. I've seen everybody improve so much. Despite being late for the interview, he hammered out. So hammered out the agreement would mean that's a contract, right? But this is maybe for a job interview. So we don't hammer out for a job interview. Thank you, Paramesh. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, for the interview, for a person who's positive, they can boast all around. Yeah, it's still overqualified. Usually, if you're in a job interview, and if the interviewer says overqualified, you can guarantee you're not getting the job. So that's like a very polite way to say sorry. Despite the traffic, he was late for the interview. So this kind of goes together, Nancy, right? Traffic, lots of traffic, and then late. It matches. We want it not to match. So I would say he was late for the interview despite there not being traffic. Despite the light traffic, he was late for the interview. Okay, that maybe would match. So light traffic. No problem. No problem. Yeah, if it's for meeting, that would be perfect. That would be perfect, Miranda. No problem. I like this other one. I like the beginning. Despite being late for the interview, Miranda, he knocked it out of the park. He knocked it out of the park. This is a sports idiom from America. If you knock it out of the park, it's kind of like a home run. You did very, very well. All right. A lot of good answers for number 10. Okay. Now from number 11, I'm only putting one word. All right. I'm not giving you a sentence. I'm not giving you a lot of information. I've just got one word. The word is cold. The word is cold. Using the one word, make a sentence using in spite of plus a noun, or despite or in spite of and a verb. Verb must be ing. And you could do anything. So here you've got a lot of freedom to, use whatever theme, whatever ideas, whatever story you'd like to make. Let's see, Paramesh, you've got here. He was late for the interview despite it being a walkable distance. A walkable distance. Don't forget the a, but great job, Paramesh. Great sentence. All right, so just the word cold. I'm going to put my sentence on the screen right now. And I'm going to oh, that didn't work. Okay, here's my sentence. He wore a t-shirt outside despite it being minus 10 degrees Celsius. All right, so I didn't even use the word cold here. I just used the idea and I made a sentence. He wore a t-shirt outside despite it being minus 10 degrees Celsius. Paramesh, he was late for the interview despite it being a walkable distance. Perfect. Fighter, she never comes down with viruses despite the fact that viruses are going around. Not is going around, but are going around. I like that. I love that last part of the sentence, Fighting Boys. I think everybody should try to remember this. You know, sometimes certain months, a lot of people get sick. So, you know, especially December and January, a lot of people get the flu, right? And so if a lot of people are catching the same sickness, we always say that the cold or the virus or the flu is going around, right? That means it's spreading everywhere. Great sentence, Fighting Boys. Nancy, despite the cold weather, I still had to run cross country. Perfect. Nancy, do you run cross country? That was one sport I just couldn't do. Okay, great. I like it. A lot of good sentences there. Now, anybody who's done number 11, number 12 is on the screen. Number 12, the word is injury. So we're going to make a sentence using the word injury. And also, while you're writing that, while you're thinking about that, I do have a question for everyone. Has anybody seen the new movie, Deadpool? Have you seen it? And if you have seen it, how was it? I'm planning to go watch it tomorrow, and I want to know if I should or if I shouldn't. No, but your son does. Okay, nice. Good for him. That's a tough sport. I can run if I'm playing soccer, basketball, or something, but just running cross country, that's tough. Fighting Boys, can we say are straining for what? Fighting Boys, what are you talking about here? Like a strain, like a virus strain, or a cold strain? So strain itself would be like a type of a specific virus, right? For example, let's say if you've got the cold, the common cold, there are many different strains, right? So let's say coronavirus is a strain of the cold. RSV virus, the rhinovirus, these are all strains of a cold. So you have cold as the main part, and a strain is different types of a cold. So it's not a verb. Does that answer your question? The only time we would use strain as a verb is if you try to do something which is very difficult. Right? Let's say I have a very heavy box, and I'm trying to lift it, so I strained to lift the box, right? I put a lot of effort to do something, and we can use strain. Another verb for strain is when you're cooking. You put something through the mesh wire, that's straining something. Let's see. We've got some answers for injury. Miranda, despite having the injury, he performed really well in the tournament. Okay, and I would actually say an injury. Despite having an injury, he performed really well in the tournament. So an injury and the tournament. But great, Miranda. All right, Paramesh, the doctor treats all the patients despite the cold weather. Perfect. And I would say all his patients or all her patients. The doctor treats all her patients, his patients, despite the cold weather. I still had to go to work despite my knee injury. Perfect. Perfect, Nancy. Good job. In spite of the severe damage and lots of wreckage, no one was injured, thankfully. Wow, great sentence. Very vivid sentence. Like I could imagine that sentence. A really great use of adjectives and vocabulary, Fightybros. You're welcome, by the way. Strain, yeah. Lots of different meanings. Okay, I like it. I like it. Let's keep moving then. Let's put the next two on the screen. Oh, I don't. Can you see number 14? I don't. Sometimes if it's on 2 pages, some people can't see the second one. 13, I think you can see. This is difficulty. 14, if you can't see it, it says fatigue. Fatigue. Yeah, very good, Fireways. The severe damage. Fatigue, yes. Okay, good. You can see it. Nice. So we've got difficulty and fatigue. Right? You can use these words. You don't have to use these words. This is just your inspiration to make a sentence. I'll give you just a simple answer. I know everybody's been giving me a lot of really good sentences, a lot of difficult sentences. I'll give you guys just a simple one for this. All right, so my answer, she solved the problem in spite of the difficulty. She solved the problem in spite of the difficulty. Fatigue, Paramesh, means extreme tiredness. So you're very, very tired. You have like no energy, no power. You're very tired. You're exhausted. So number 13, difficulty. She solved the problem in spite of the difficulty. All right, we've got Fighting Boys. Despite, no of, despite the level of difficulty of the math question, despite the level of difficulty of the math question, they can easily grapple with it. They could, I would say, maybe is better. They could. If you're going to say as it's a routine, like always, then I would say despite the level of difficulty of the math questions, S, they can easily grapple with them. But if it's just going to be one situation, then maybe they could. It would be better. Nancy, despite the difficult work, he was able to manage the task. Perfect. Miranda, we should persevere despite difficulty. Perfect. Simple, to the point. Good job. Perfect, Fightybos. Nice. Excellent. All right, and then let's hide that and let's put, fatigue a little higher. What would your answer for fatigue mean? Again, I'll put a very simple sentence here if you guys want. just an idea. And I'm going to put fatigue a little higher. All right, so I got fatigue. All right, the former cultivates agriculture despite his life being no difficulties here, Paramesh. Difficult. Okay. The farmer, okay, not former. The farmer cultivates his farm, not agriculture. I would say farm. The farmer cultivates his farm despite his life being difficult. Okay, so the farmer, F-A-R, the farmer cultivates his farm despite his life being difficult. Funny boys, we've got, despite all of the fatigue that I felt in my knee, I could drag myself to home and escape from the disaster situation. Okay, almost perfect. Okay, so beginning part is great, funny boys. Despite all of the fatigue that I feel in my knee, perfect. I could drag myself, I could drag myself home and escape from the disastrous situation. Disastrous. Disaster is a noun. Situation is a noun. So we need disaster to be an adjective. Right? So we're gonna disastrous. We want that verb or that adjective, sorry. Disastrous. Okay, so perfect, Funny Boys. Miranda, yes, fatigue is tiredness. Yes, correct. All right, perfect. Paramesh, just make sure it's not F-O, it's F-A. F-A-R-M-E-R and F-A-R-M. Yeah, Funny Boys, yeah, felt is good. Feel is also okay in the situation. The reason feel, it just means it's a routine. It's always you've got fatigue in your knees. So, and I think that was what maybe Miranda's question. So even though it's tiredness, but certain body parts can have tiredness, and that's due to it being weak, maybe injured. So we could say my knees are fatigued. So my knees are tired. All right, so one sec, Paramesh. So yeah, just make sure that we are saying farmer and then farm. Farmer and then farm. Okay, I like this one. Nancy, when I had COVID, I felt fatigued despite getting over it. So no I, just despite getting over it. Despite getting over it. Yeah, me too. When I got COVID, I would say for a week, maybe 2 weeks after recovering, I felt very fatigued. My body felt fatigued and my mind, like my brain, felt slow. So let's see. Federboards, what do we got here? Fatigue is a little tension, contribute to bad posture, I think. Fatigue is more extreme tiredness. And this can be from physical like you're doing something too physical, so you get fatigued, or it can be mental, right? You do something very challenging, mentally very challenging, so you felt, mentally fatigued, right? You can feel, when you're exhausted, you can say you're fatigued. Now, if you do something over and over and over again, right? So the same motion, let's say I'm picking a box, putting it here, picking a box, putting it here. So my back has become fatigued in that situation, causing bad posture, but fatigue itself is just extreme tiredness. But yeah, I can relate, Nancy. I had a lot of fatigue after my COVID. All right, let's keep going. Let's try to finish all of them today. I did at 20, right? So we got 15 to 20 left. Let's try to get them all done today. Everybody's making good sentences. All right, so we've got the word storm now. Storm. Again, I'll give you guys a sample sentence on the screen. They went sailing in spite of the storm. They went sailing in spite of the storm. Yeah, it's something you definitely shouldn't do. It'd be very dangerous, but they went sailing in spite of the storm. And then as you can see, delay is the second part. We've got a second word there. So anybody who wants to think about 16 as well, it's on the screen for you. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Despite their tornado, everyone was okay. Great sentence, Nancy. And Nancy, I do know you live in Texas, right? It's Texas, right? And I know that Texas is part of Tornado Valley, the tornado, like the tornado tunnel, the tornado valley. I've been to Texas 3 times, 2 times, only 2 times. And the first time I went to Texas, Nancy, the first time I was in Dallas. I was there for work. I was doing a training seminar in Dallas. And on the first night, there was a tornado. I remember, Nancy, I was actually at a barbecue restaurant. In Texas, you have to eat barbecue. So I went to a barbecue restaurant. I got my food. I was just started eating. And the manager of this barbecue restaurant, I was eating like ribs and stuff, brisket. The manager came up to me and says, "Hey, you have to go." And I felt a little, what? Why do I have to go? Like, I thought he was kicking me out. And I kind of looked confused. He says, no, like there's a tornado coming. We just got a tornado warning. So I've already called you a taxi. Take your food. It's on the house. Okay, it's on the house, he said. It's on the house means it's free. It's free. The manager said, don't worry about paying. It's on the house. And he called me a taxi. So I grabbed my food. I got into a taxi, made it back to my hotel. And yeah, the tornado alarms were going all off. It was pretty crazy. Despite being stormy, it was not cold. Perfect, Miranda. Okay, Faribor. Despite the fact that technology takes all spheres of life by storm, all spheres, put an S there, many villagers all around the world are still using snail mail as a tool for communication. Wow, great sentence, Faribor. Great sentence. Just a couple of things. despite the fact that technology takes all spheres of life by storm, spheres, S there, many individuals all around the world are still using snail mail as a tool for communication. No, don't be sorry. That's great. That's the best way to practice, right? This is your chance to practice and use these words, because then you'll be able to use them when you're speaking. You've been in Texas your whole life. You haven't. What? If you don't mind me asking, Nancy, you don't have to answer. If you don't want to answer, just ignore my question. But what part of Texas? I was in Dallas, and it's not like the tornado came into Dallas, but it was, the alarms went off and it was windy. That wasn't the first tornado that I experienced. I actually saw a tornado once, Nancy, and this was in Canada. I was in Alberta, which is kind of like Canada's Texas. And I saw a tornado just ripping through farms, probably like a kilometer or 2 kilometers, a mile, 2 miles away. It was terrible. And yeah, Nancy, I hope you never see one either, because tornadoes, that's just horrible. Perfect, fighting voters. So we got delay as well. We got delay as well as one of our sentences here. I'm going to give you guys just a simple little sentence on the screen for delay. I'm not going to get too complicated. The concert started on time despite the delay. The concert started on time despite the delay. All right, Nancy, you've got here, despite the storm leaving us without power, we were able to get the generator and work. Perfect. Perfect. I'm actually thinking about buying a generator, even though I don't have to worry about tornadoes here in Tokyo, and even typhoons, which are hurricanes. They do hit this area. In fact, I think next week there's a typhoon coming that will hit Japan. It's not too big of a deal in Tokyo. But I want to buy a generator for camping. But great sentence, Nancy. All right, so we got delay still. The concert started on time despite the delay. 30 minutes away from Dallas. Okay, nice, nice. It's good air. That's perfect distance, because you can still enjoy the city, but yet still live in a quiet area. Miranda, in spite of the delay of her package, she was satisfied with the product finally. In spite of the delay, in spite of the delay in getting her package, she was satisfied with the product finally. All right, so the beginning part, in spite of the delay in getting or receiving her package, she was satisfied with the product finally. Five words, in spite of being late in Shelley's English school, I was welcomed by my knowledgeable teacher. Wow, great sentence. Thank you so much. You're too kind, though. All right, good sentence. And I would, one thing to remember here, Fighters, this sentence is fine, but be careful. Whenever we're saying you're late, like I'm sorry, I am late, or being late, and then you're talking about some event, the preposition we're usually going to be using is for. I'm sorry for being late for the party. I was late for the class. So 4, I was late for the meeting. All right, Paramesh, they haven't reached on time despite not being delayed. Delayed, ED on the delay, Paramesh, should be past tense. They haven't reached on time despite not being delayed. Perfect. All right, good job. So let's move up. Number 17 and 18 are on the screen, and then we'll finish with 19 and 20. 17. All right, Vladimir was perfect. And Paramesh, perfect, delayed. Number 17 is warnings, warnings. All right, so I'm going to put a simple sentence on the screen that hopefully will help you guys get an idea. They went ahead with the trip in spite of the warnings. They went ahead with the trip in spite of the warnings. All right, they haven't reached on time despite not being delayed. Paramesh, perfect. They went ahead with the trip in spite of the warnings. So this is saying that people are warning them, you know, don't go to this place, don't go to that country, don't go to that city. It's dangerous, it's crazy. So I hear all the warnings, but I still go ahead and I go on the trip. Let's see, Nancy. There was a delay there with, not in. There was a delay with corporate sending out the report despite the deadline. Perfect. Great sentence, Nancy. There was a delay. There was a delay. There was a delay with corporate sending out the report despite the deadline. All right. In spite of all the warnings for a local tornado, lots of people were just basking on the beach. There you go. You fixed it faster than I could say it. In spite of all the warnings for a local tornado, the warnings also. In spite of all the warnings for a local tornado, lots of people were just basking on the beach. Yeah, that's true, because most likely a tornado will not hit the beach. Maybe hurricane or typhoon. Great sentence, though. Great sentence. So some of these words are starting to get a little bit more difficult, right? Warning. The word itself is not difficult, but how do we put it in a sentence? That becomes difficult, right? Fatima is perfect. Miranda, despite the warnings, they could go safely. Perfect. Right. The next one's also tough. Expense. Expense. Right. It's not expensive. It's expense. For example, for expense, I might make that sentence. She bought the dress despite the expense. Okay, here, expense is a noun. It basically means the cost, the price. She bought the dress despite the expense. So basically this means it's a very high cost. It's very expensive, but she doesn't care. She bought the dress. All right, so just think of expense as meaning cost. All right, think of expense. It means cost. All right, so that's if you're thinking, trying to figure out how to use expense, use it like you would use cost. For example, if I use cost in a sentence, maybe I could make a sentence like this. She attended the conference despite the cost. Okay, this means that it's a very expensive conference, but I still attended. So just exchange cost for expense, and it's the same meaning. Miranda, despite the high expense, the parents wanted her to study at university. Perfect sentence. Perfect sentence. Fighty Boars, despite the fact that the expense and cost of living are really high in Western countries, people can deal with it. Almost perfect. Just put it at the end, and then it's perfect. Yeah, the cost of living and the expense is quite high in Western countries like US and Canada, Australia, UK. Fortunately, the salaries are also high. Perfect, Fabo is adding the it there. Okay, good job with 17 and 18. Anybody who hasn't put 17 or 18, definitely do so. You can put your answers in. I'm going to move to 19 and 20, but that doesn't mean you can't put your answer in as well for 17 and 18. Paramesh put an answer here. I need to buy my favorite book despite the expense. No, it is. Despite the expense. Here, expense is a noun. So there's going to be no subject, no verb. Despite the expense. All right. So 19 and 20 are on the screen. I don't know why it says 1 there, but just ignore that. 19 and 20 are on the screen. These will be the last 2 that we'll do. And anybody who's joining right now, who has no idea what we're doing, we're making sentences using in spite of or despite. And we're either following it with a noun or we're following it with an ing verb. So you'll see some words on the screen. Use that word, use those ideas, make a sentence. All right, looks like I've got... let's see. You can say it's expense. That works, Fighting Words. Yeah, that's okay. That's perfect. Despite its expense. Yeah, that works. All right, so Nanti, you're here. You're almost perfect here. You do need to put another phrase here. Despite taking my time with the expense spreadsheet, I was still off. Despite taking my time, or despite focusing, despite concentrating on, despite taking hours to finish the expense spreadsheet, I was still off. Okay, so you should put something, a verb in there. So despite, despite taking time to do the expense spreadsheet, I was still off. All right, despite focusing on the spreadsheet, I was still off. Okay, very good, Nancy. Miranda, despite being deprived, he could make a fortune later. He could make a fortune later. Good. So Miranda, is this for number 19, lack? So deprived being a synonym for lack? So I have a sentence here. Mira, what does I'm flattered means? I'm flattered. Wow, very, very noisy motorcycle. I apologize for that. If anybody has ever lived in Japan, the motorcycle, that's one person driving by, he or she is actually part of a gang. And it's very, like, it's not a strong gang, it's not a scary gang, but they're a group of young boys and girls who ride motorcycles or scooters and purposely make a lot of noise like that. I don't understand the reasoning behind it, but they're called bozozoku. Yes, no, Miranda, no, synonym, that's fine. Deprived, lack, it's great. It works. Mira, I'm flattered. I'm flattered. It means I'm very pleased. I'm honored, right? You said something nice to me, so I would say, oh, I'm flattered. I'm very happy that you said, you praised me. You said something nice to me. So it's a good way to say thank you. All right, so Fighting Boars, despite, and I think you already corrected, despite the lack of knowledge, don't forget that, despite the lack of knowledge in certain fields, she'll pass exam with flying colors. Perfect. Perfect. I like it. You even incorporated flying colors there. They're crying for attention. Yeah, I know. It's weird. And it's weird because they don't generally come in my area. I live in a quite residential area. It's quite, it's a nice area. They're usually near the beach area. So, and it was just one rider. They're usually in a group and it's much, much noisier. It's expensive means it is expensive, right? Are you talking about expense, Parmesh? If you're talking about expense means cost. Expense means cost. Okay, expense means cost. Yeah, deprived of food. I like it. Like deprived of food, lack of food. Oh, no problem. No problem, Miranda. Don't worry about it. No need to apologize. And look, noise. It could perfect timing. Number 20 is noise, and I had a noisy little punk riding his motorbike past my house. And I'll put a simple sentence for me, but let's look at Fighting Boars first. Despite the deafening noise of the audience, the band accepted to come back for an encore. Perfect. I love it. I love it. Nancy, yeah, despite the noise, you still continue with your live. Yes. Excellent. Fighting Boars, I have a question for you. And this is a question for anybody who wants, for all of you. But Fighting Boars mentioned encore. You go to a concert, the band or the musician plays, they do their set, then they leave. But then you want them to come back. You want them to return and sing another song, which is called an encore. How do you get them to return? What do you do to get them to return? Nowadays, you would probably get your phone and turn it on and hold it up because you're trying to show some light. Everybody holds up their phone. But before smartphones, what did people do? Before smartphones, how would you tell the band? How would you show the band that you want them to come? Despite yelling, of course you're going to yell, hey, come on, right? You vocally call for them. Yeah, you're going to be yelling for them. But we also did something else. Before smartphones, there was something else we would do. I think I'm aging myself here because I did it once. Every other concert I've used a phone. But before phones, people would get a lighter. A lighter that, to make fire. And everyone would light the lighter and hold up the lighter. So it's an actual fire. Everybody's got like a candle in their hand, but it's a lighter. So people would all bring lighters to concerts. Think about it. It's quite dangerous. Paramesh, what's the opposite of lack? The opposite of lack would be maybe excess or abundance. Abundance. I like the word abundance. All right, let's put that on here. Abundance. Abundance is a great opposite of lack. My sentence for the noise was this: she managed to sleep despite the noise. So Hispanics will say otra, which means another. Okay, nice. Cedar Band. Which country is this band from, Freddie Bush? South African rock band. A South African rock band. Oh, the U.S. Oh, okay. Sorry. Cedar. I've never listened to any of the music. I'll have to check it out. All right. Awesome job, everybody. I think everybody did really, really, really amazing. A lot of great sentences. Everybody did some really sort of high level advanced sentences today. And I made it difficult. I wanted to make some of the cues, some of the words a little bit more difficult. Words like lack, words like expense, words like warning. These are all a little bit more difficult to use. Delay. So I think you guys all did a great job today. I can really, really see so much improvement in all of you guys. Like Nirvana. Wow, if they're like Nirvana, I definitely have to check them out. I definitely have to check it out because I used to love Nirvana. All right. Well, any questions about in spite of or despite, using either with a noun or with the ing verb? Just remember they have to contrast. That's the main thing. Two contrasting ideas, kind of like a plus minus, minus plus. So Sean Morgan, okay? Sean Morgan's the leader of the band. I'll have to check it out then. Yeah, I can see it right now. Sean Morgan, Dale Stewart, Corey Lowry, John Humphrey, Patrick Callahan. Nancy, you are very, very welcome. You're very, very welcome. Thank you for joining. Thanks for telling me a little bit about Texas. As always, I love this. I love the place. And Faribors, thank you as well. I'll definitely check this out. You know, after the lesson, I'll probably listen to it. I've got Alexa here waiting to play any music I want. All right. Well, if there are no questions, then let's call it a lesson then. I usually do a live on Saturday morning. This Saturday, I cannot do a live. I will be very busy on Saturday, but I'll probably try to do it on Sunday instead. And I'm thinking about doing a lesson tomorrow night. All right, so same time as today. Today we started at 11. So I'm thinking about doing a lesson tomorrow night at 11 p.m. So if you're free tomorrow night, come join me 11 p.m. Just check my community site. I'll put up a message early tomorrow letting you know if I do a lesson. Saturday I won't. Sunday most likely I will. So just check out my community site, and hopefully you guys can join. Listen to Careless Whisper. You know, I might have heard this already then, because I've heard a punk sort of alternative version of Careless Whisper. So maybe I have heard them, but I'll listen to it. I'll listen to it right after this. And I'll let you know in the next live Funny Bros. And thank you. Thank you. Love the emojis as always, the ones I never get. All right, guys. Great to see you all. Amazing job today. Really, really impressed with everybody. Thanks again. And I'll see you guys all very, very soon, maybe tomorrow night, definitely on the weekend. But everybody have a great day tomorrow as well. All right. See y'all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks, Miranda.